Please now join us in welcoming advisors to this project, Saeed Ghasseminejad, Senior Economics Fellow at FTD, and Senior Economist Mohammad JahanParvar, along with celebrated investor and founder Shervin Pishevar, in a conversation moderated by NUFDI Vice President Khansarinia.
Good news and bad news. Bad news, I'm back, so I apologize. Good news is, for the first time, I think, at the NUFDI conference, and perhaps the first time in history, we're going to have a discussion about economics, which I hope will actually be interesting. And we'll see if these panelists are up to the task. You heard Amir talk about IPP. It's something that at NUFDI we're extremely proud of, and something that our next speaker, who I'm sure you're very happy to hear from, will be speaking about in some length as well. It's not just about getting rid of the Islamic Republic. It's about the day after and the plans that we have for the people of Iran, the preparations for the people of Iran to ensure that their needs are met, to ensure that Iran can return to its rightful place among the community of nations, as a leader of the community of nations, both within the Middle East and in the broader geopolitical community. And at NUFDI, we take that extremely seriously, and that's why we're proud to support the work of the Iran Prosperity Project, and we have two of the senior advisors to the project to discuss that project with us, and also somebody who has experience doing exactly what we're trying to prepare for the future of Iran. So this one will be a bit shorter because I know that you are anticipating our next speaker, but also how long can one talk about economics, with all due respect to Mohammad and Saeed. But we'll start there out of due deference to you. Saeed, you were involved in the creation of this project, IPP. Why is it important to start with something like this? Tell us a bit about the backstory of this project, why you are putting so much time into it. You have a full-time job at FTD, where you are one of the world's most renowned experts on sanctions on the Islamic Republic. Why are you taking time out of your day, you're not being compensated for this, to work on a project like this? Why does it matter to you? And tell us a bit about how it got started.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I'm generally pessimist, not a good person to have a beer with. Usually dooms and glooms come out from me. But I'm pretty optimistic about Iran, the future of Iran's economy. Iran is the last untapped market, large untapped market in the world. We have a quite large diaspora outside, very well connected, very well off, very well educated. We have tons of resources. So, and in 2015, I was on the other side. A lot of people were trying to get into Iran, and we were mapping them to try to make sure they are not going there. And that's actually the list of the companies that the moment that the regime is gone, you can have them to go back. But it's important I think, for the Iranians inside Iran, for the Iranian diaspora, and for the international community to see that there is a plan out there, that when the regime falls, Iranians know what to do. There are Iranian experts who have thought about that. So that helps the Iranian inside Iran to be more optimistic about their future. That helps the diaspora to be more engaged. And that helps the international community, whether it's governments or business people, to be more optimistic about the future of Iran, the fall of the regime, to know that they can actually engage with the Iranian opposition. So what we are trying to do is to have a plan. We hope that different factions of the opposition will see this plan, and they can actually unite around this plan, because the plan is really not ideological. It's a common sense plan. So that's our goal.
I think that's so important to know, because I think there's a lot of people who are accustomed to fighting amongst different groups and a quote-unquote lack of unity that we're told so often about. But to see a project which is not ideological but is focused on practical solutions for the people of Iran, I think, as you said, it serves as a hopeful opportunity that people can come together around that. It's not about left-leaning or right-leaning or future form of government, but really about the needs of the Iranian people. So with that sort of expectation set, let's talk about something a little bit less hopeful and exciting for the future, but the reality and the facts. Mohammad, can you tell us what has Iran lost in the past 45 years from an economic perspective? Because you can answer that question ad nauseum, obviously. But economically, tell us where we were just prior to 1979 and where we are today, and what ramifications has that had for the people of Iran and for the market?
Well, thank you very much for having us here, and thank you for the opportunity to contribute to the IPP project. So as usual, the disclaimer goes, these are my personal opinions, but they are also common sense, essentially reading the data at this point. So the high point of from the individual Iranian's point of view, the high point of prosperity came sometime around between 1976 and 1977. At that point, after about 2 decades of double-digit growth and very low inflation, Iran was about to break into the ranks of upper middle income countries in the world. It was a slightly poorer per capita than Spain, substantially more prosperous than Turkey or South Korea. And then the country went into a tailspin. So about 45 years later, Iran stands at 117th place out of about 190 countries in terms of income. So to give you an idea that what it means that based on some estimates, let's say IMF estimates, El Salvador is slightly better off than Iran. Iran is about as well off, slightly better off than Indonesia. So the goal, if you want to think about that, what it could be, Iran could be at least about the average income in the world. So right now, the per capita output for Iran is about $4,500 per year. It could be about $13,000. At $13,000, which is the average for the world, Iran would be like the 22nd or 23rd largest economy in the world. So this is the magnitude of loss that you're looking at. Now, you compound that by every Iranian family over 45 years, and you're looking at a mind-boggling number. So by being kept as a policy choice outside the world order, Iranians are substantially poorer than their neighbors and their peers as of like in 1976. The point of reference, counterfactuals are cheap, and it is a fool's errand to try to estimate that what it could have been. Things can go right or wrong for various reasons, but it is reasonable to expect that Iranians would be better off had they continued as the economic performance close to the average of the world, rather than being the big sick man of Middle East. I think that would probably answer the question. I do not want to put an exact number on that because, again, running counterfactuals is difficult. But think about all the hospitals not built, all the mines that were not up to standard. So as a result, Iranian miners die for completely preventable accidents. Think about all the children who could have gone to world-level standard schools, all the women who could have had access to basic healthcare, and they do not get it right now, and all the houses, cars that are not bought, and the structures that are not that could have been up to standard, such that small earthquakes in an earthquake-prone country would not actually lead to wholesale slaughter of entire cities. BAM comes to mind. I'll leave it at that, and we can come back and discuss this a little bit more.
Mohammad is too much of an economist. We would have been the South Korea of Middle East. We became the North Korea of Middle East. I think we could have been easily at the level of South Korea.
Shervin, in terms of what's been lost and what could have been, I think you and so many other Iranians who are unfortunately not in their own country but forced to be abroad are examples of what could have been. So can you tell, your background is quite well known, I think, to most people, an early investor in some of the greatest companies today, from Uber to so many others. what is it that Iranians are so good at in business? Tell us a bit about your experience as an Iranian business person abroad, and maybe then after that, what would that look like back in Iran? Let's say 1979 had never happened, or tomorrow, as I asked the previous panel, the regime falls. What does it look like bringing all that human capital and potential back to a country like Iran?
Thank you. In Silicon Valley, we have a technique called A/B testing, and A/B testing allows you to, basically test whether one output or a second output is different based on the fundamentals of the experiment. And we've had the A/B test. The A/B test is Iran, the Islamic regime, under the Islamic regime, as you guys have very wisely explained, has really destroyed value and destroyed the lives of 88 million of our brothers and sisters. At the same time, the diaspora of Iranians, the millions who escaped the Islamic regime and came to America, Europe, Australia, all over the world, you look at their success, and that's the A/B test. That's what Iran would have been. And I was putting some numbers together because there's some of these are my friends, and some of these are companies that I helped either invest in or serve on the board of in the case of Uber. But I added up the value of companies that Iranian Americans, just Iranian Americans, have helped create and scale. And the number comes out to $5.85 trillion of value, of company valuations. This is Dara at Uber. This is Hadi and Ali Partovi funding Facebook. This is Omid Kurdistani building Google from 5 people, and Salar Kamangar building AdWords and AdSense. Pierre Omidyar inventing eBay and then doing PayPal. Anousheh Ansari, SpaceX with Omid Afshar. That adds up to $6 trillion. So that, I think, is probably the best example of what could have been, but also I am a techno-optimist, and I actually am an optimist about the Iranian spirit, because we've been around for 4,000 years, and the Islamic regime will end up being a blink in the eye of our history once they're gone. And once they're gone, the diaspora will all go back and invest and help our people build Iran quickly under, what we need is we need a Vision 2030, the way MBS and Saudi has. We need a Vision 2040 for Iran. And if you look at all of the things that are possible, we could build Manhattan projects for quantum computing, for AI and AGI, for biotech, longevity. I think you look at the examples against A/B testing this. Look at the UAE, look at Qatar, look at Oman, look at Saudi Arabia since 1979 and what they've done with their economies. I just came back from Qatar, and the level of infrastructure, the level of investment in their people is so inspiring. We can do the same thing. I think we could turn things around in Iran once we have democracy, and once we have the Crown Prince back helping build the future of Iran. Iran will become a major source of hope and peace and prosperity, not just for Iranian people, but for the world.
Let me stay with you for a second, Shervin. You listed those people and their immense accomplishments. With all due respect to them and all the work that they've done, all the value that they've built for consumers, for markets, it's you who I see on this stage, and it's you who I see consistently in the media talking not just about markets and the companies that you've built and the companies in which you've invested, but talking about this very topic, which is the people of Iran and their democratic aspirations. Why have you chosen to be so public about this? Why have you chosen not to? It's quite easy, obviously, for people to stay silent. That's the sort of the modus operandi. Why have you chosen to talk about this so publicly and to put your sort of your personal business credibility behind something like this?
Thank you. My first answer is because of my parents. My father, Abraham, and my mother, Ashrat, raised me to be a patriot, a deep believer in the Iranian people and our culture. They made me deeply believe in Iranian exceptionalism. We're really talented, brilliant, amazing people who has contributed so much culturally and civilizationally to the world. And so my parents imbued that in me, and that's why I'm so involved. That's why I reached out to Elon during the Women Life Freedom movement and said, hey, I'd like to smuggle Starlinks into Iran and get it to the women so that no government can block their communication to the world. And that's why we were able to get all those videos out. But that's the main reason. And I don't fault any of my friends in tech for staying silent. However, when history starts calling, they need to open up their checkbooks and they need to invest in the Iranian people.
Mohammad, you're a numbers guy, both you and Saeed, and of course Shervin. Shervin mostly zeros after commas and the dollar sign. But tell us about the future potential of Iran. You talked about what we've lost in the past 45 years. Obviously, as Amir outlined and as we will outline in an entire day dedicated to the Iran Prosperity Project in each of the papers that were written by our expert researchers and authors from universities across the world. They'll go into an immense amount of detail next year, as Amir said. But give us a high-level view. You gave us the rear-view mirror. Going forward, what opportunities are presented to Iran should there be the fundamental political change that we all seek?
So obviously, nobody's asking me to do anything about it, but if they ask, this is what I would answer. So first of all, remember that, as I mentioned, Iran is not doing that well in terms of the league tables of the per capita output. However, the country has immense potential. So think about it that, again, looking back a little bit, back in 1974, Iran was the pivotal player in the energy markets. When the first oil embargo went into effect, Iran could actually amp up production to address at least part of the shortcomings of the market. Nowadays, it's a marginal player. I mean, it has almost zero impact in the international oil market. Just opening up of the economy to the oil and gas market and the investment that it requires would immediately elevate the position of Iran in the energy markets. Recall that the country is, by some measures, the second largest, has the second largest reserves of the natural gas, and probably third or fourth largest reserves of oil. So this is the traditional part of the economy. However, we need to constantly remind ourselves, Iran is the last remaining untapped market. So just opening up the economy of 85 million, by some measures, 88 million, educated, actually highly sophisticated consumers would immediately open up opportunities, both in terms of services and industries, that would allow very quickly for these people to get brought back into the world, get employment, start innovating, start investing, having meaningful relationships, like deep relationships with the neighbors and countries close and far, and that would generate growth. So the one important thing that you want to keep in mind is that Iran for years has suffered from chronic unemployment. You want to help people, the first thing that you want to do, provide them opportunities to have gainful employment for long periods of time. That would immediately alleviate underemployment and unemployment among young people, and particularly women that actually comprise about 60% of the university students in the country. So there are structural barriers towards the employment of women in Iran that would immediately, almost overnight, it would go away. The investment that you have to have in terms of infrastructure, security, new industries, given the large number of engineers and tech technicians in the country, would almost definitely help to sustain growth for a long period of time. It is important to keep in mind, I mean, going back, like, looking forward, culturally, Iran can be an exporter of cultural goods. Even under the Islamic Republic, it had an impact on world culture. Imagine what it would have meant if it actually could engage in cultural exchange with the rest of the world. I want to actually tell you an anecdote about something that I heard the other day. So a friend of a friend they are active in the music scene in France. And they had gotten their hands on records of Iranian singers prior to the revolution. And it was asking us that, okay, what is the newest version of these things? Because this music was actually quite good. We can actually use it now. And our answer obviously was that okay, the revolution happened. It all stopped. Open that up, and you will see that Iran is going to have a place, not unlike South Korea, in just cultural exchanges. And this is employment, this is wealth, this is creation. Let people create. They won't only create Persian carpets, they will create a lot of other things that would lead to mutual prosperity for people inside, and then also the global community. We have enriched, Iranians have enriched the world for millennia. They can continue doing that. It was somewhat sad to hear that all the panels talked about the threats that Iran emanates right now. The tables can turn. It could be prosperity. It could be a future. This is actually interesting to anticipate and interesting to watch as it unfolds.
I don't mean to disappoint all of you, but I have to get one boring economics question in, but it relates to policy, so probably some people here will appreciate it. To you, Saeed, which is, we hear so much about the Islamic Republic's current violations of international financial protocols, not being part of the global financial market, whether FATF, not being part of the SWIFT system, et cetera. Can you give us a vision of, again, the change happens next week, and you and Dr. JahanParvar, thank God, are now running economic policy in Iran as opposed to a bunch of clerics. What would be the first few steps that Iran has to take procedurally and in terms of international organizations and qualifications to return to the global market, and how feasible is that?
So the first thing would be like to join the FATF. The next thing would be we need to remove all these sanctions. If we don't do it, we cannot join the international community. The good news is that it's quite easy. A lot of them can be suspended through executive orders. So executive order, the sanction will not be removed from the law, but the effect will be gone. So that actually depends on you stop financing terrorism. That depends on the new regime not wanting to destroy Israel, not wanting to kick the United States out of the region. So the financial decisions, economic decisions are important, but what's more important than them is the political vision. And I think we are very lucky to have a leader like Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi, who has immense support inside Iran, who is a statesman in the international community. When he talks here and there, everyone really appreciates that. I have seen that. So we are actually very lucky to have someone like him. The Iraqis unfortunately didn't have that. The Afghans had someone like him. The Americans unfortunately prevented his return. But we have that person right now, who knows? I hope like he's active and alive for 100 more years. But we also need to understand that our window of opportunity is limited. So if that happens, if that political change happens, if you bring that new political perspective, then the economic decisions are not that difficult. These are like very common sense economic and financial decisions. You just go and take what IMF tells you to do, and you are 90% fine. So sorry, the answer was not very economic, was mostly political, but the problem in Iran is really mostly political.
I want to actually add a little bit of economics to that. Sometimes the mistakes of your adversary are opportunities for you. For many countries that actually go through transitions, one important constraint that they actually have to face is the fact that they usually, through mismanagement, they have large external debt. Islamic Republic, due to its very aggressive international stance, has actually cut Iran off from any type of financial interaction for 45 years. So one thing that the next government, the transitional government, is going to have at its disposal, and it is important, is that it will start with almost no external liabilities that are going to crush the finances of that government in the initial phase. So you have to take the win there. What happens next would be to essentially removing the barriers, political barriers first, followed by economic barriers from the ingenuity and the business spirit of Iranian people. They will do the rest. You do not need to do much.
On that topic of the spirit of the Iranian people and the business spirit, you talked a bit about it, Shervin, but you've obviously invested in so many companies, helped build them. You know, to a great extent, what makes good founders, what makes good companies. Looking at Iran now, obviously, perhaps it's difficult to imagine, and to some extent, given the Islamic Republic, I mean, as Mohammad was pointing out, 60% of college graduates are women in Iran, but so many of them are denied places in the workforce because of the regime's laws. When you look at Iran as a potential market, not as a country, you describe yourself as a patriot, you're a patriot, but you're a businessman as well. When you look at it not as a patriot, but as a businessman, what opportunities do you see in Iran for companies? What industries are you drawn to immediately? What sort of companies immediately make you want to be investing in them and be part of the next big thing in Iran?
The great thing is, we all know as Iranians, our moms and dads really push education on us and want us to be doctors and engineers and lawyers and so on.
I think I'm the only non-doctor and non-millionaire on this stage, which is unique for me.
I was supposed to be the doctor of the family, and I rebelled. But
I think you did pretty okay.
my brother and sister became, lawyer and PhDs. So they made up for it. But if you look at just the human capital in Iran, you look at Sharif University. I think Stanford University's engineering program at one point in the last 10 years, out of 35 PhD students, like 28 of them were from Sharif University. So most of these incredible minds are there, they're educated, they're ready to build, except they're in prison, essentially. And so once freedom comes, some of the things I've thought through is, and learned from Silicon Valley is, first of all, Silicon Valley is not a physical place anymore. It's an idea that's gone viral. And I know many, many Iranians in Iran have the aspiration to be entrepreneurs. I get emails and messages from many of them. And they're waiting for that opportunity to be mentored, for there to be incubators and venture studios, YC programs where we can actually mentor, invest, and train young entrepreneurs to build the next Google out of Iran. That potential is there. We just have to systematically build the ecosystem. The good thing is the university system is very strong, and you need to have a university and educational system to be able to build something like Silicon Valley in Iran. But I think that potential is tremendous. Also, if you look at the diaspora and the number of people that could come and invest and build companies and hire people and mentor people, there'll be a renaissance of economic activity in Iran.
You recently started a new position as the co-chairman of, I won't mention the name, I'm not sure if your company's lawyers would appreciate that, but you've started a new position as a co-chairman of a very important crypto-based financial institution. So first of all, congratulations. But in terms of the potential of technology in Iran, a lot of things have been missed, unfortunately, in the past several decades. Iran has been unable to take, the Iranian people have been unable to take advantage of certain trends or opportunities that the rest of the world has been able to take advantage of. What sort of technologies do you see being able to be brought to Iran to improve the lives of Iranians? What sort of tech companies can be built there? I mean, as you said, every out of 4 Iranians, 3 of them is an engineer. So what sort of things can be built, and what sort of companies and technologies can be used or built to better the lives of the Iranian people?
The historical coincidence is the timing of this potential kind of freedom for Iran, hopefully sooner than later, is happening at the same time of the greatest revolution that's going on, I think, in human history, which is artificial intelligence, and what's coming, which is AGI, artificial general intelligence. And so we're about to achieve a huge milestone, which is AGI will get us to much higher than human intelligence, and even the collective intelligence of all humans. And so in the same way that the mutations that happened millions of years ago that gave us our brains and gave us our ability to have language, that was essentially the creation of an AGI inside the human brain. Now we're inventing something that is what I call superintelligence. And so the timing of what could happen is that you have a huge amount of Iranians who have technical talent. There's many AI researchers and engineers who are Iranian. And I actually think that what we should do is make Iran into the AI leader in the world, because as a sovereign, that is going to be the biggest advantage any sovereign could have, is to have sovereign supremacy around artificial intelligence. We need to build AI supercomputing centers in Iran. We have the power for it. We have the brain power for it. All of those ingredients are there, and that's why I think by 2040, Iran could surpass what we could have done in the last 45 years.
Last question to each of you, because we are past our time, and I don't want to keep our keynote speaker waiting. Tell us, if you can, in 1 or 2 sentences, beyond what you've said thus far, your outlook for Iran's economic future, both as it relates to the Iranian people and as it relates to the global economic community and global markets, if this political change comes about. Saeed, let's start with you.
I think as a last large untapped market with a, as I said, well-educated, well-off, well-connected diaspora, Iran actually can become a developed country very fast and very quickly, much faster than many think. The day after the Islamic Republic falls, if we can actually put that political transition that does not create a foreign war, that does not create a civil war, if that happens, the economic part is quite easy. It will happen very fast and quickly.
So what I want to say is something similar to what a doctor would say. You get an opportunity, don't squander it. So if the political change comes, Iranians are going to get one chance to set it right and do it right. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. There is the collective knowledge of several countries that have gone through similar transitions at your disposal. Don't try to do things, very exciting things. Try to be as normal, as prudent, and as data-dependent and experience-dependent as possible. You'll see that it will bear fruit. what you want to be is that you want to be a normal, liberal, democratic member of the global community. You do not want to be the unique country that either in one direction or the other direction, you're going to surprise everybody. Avoid surprises.
Yeah, make Iran boring again.
It's hard for Iranians not to be unique. So
You can be unique, but you can be productive.
Yeah, uniquely productive. Again, I believe in Iranian exceptionalism, and I think what they're saying is exactly right. The speed at which Iran can recover and excel and exceed anything that happened in the last 45 years and go beyond it. We will forget this ugly history and we'll move forward to a new day for the Iranian people and for the world.
Well, NUFDI will proudly share more information about IPP with you in the coming weeks and months. Until then, before our keynote speaker, please join me once again in thanking Shervin, Pishevar, Saeed Ghasseminejad, and Mohammad JahanParvar.